Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We even
Hi,
have some
everyone.
of those people featured in the video helping us out tonight, which is
This
nice.
is a celebration Shabbat unlike any other. We've been showing the videos of members of our youth choir, our Sheer Joy singers, but tonight we have some of them live virtually in the building. So you are all in for a huge treat as we are celebrating all milestones. We're celebrating students tonight. It is just a big old celebration Shabbat.
Yeah, our schools at Browerman Elementary reopened this week, and I know some other schools around Los Angeles as well. People are finding out about possible school options this week and next week. So lots going on around education and our children this time of year. So lots to celebrate, as always. So we can't start the celebration without really kicking it off with some blessings, though.
Yep, so we are going to invite all of you at home to join us in the lighting of our Shabbat candles. We checked before we started, but we always do a little prayer to make sure this thing works. Oh, yes. Awesome. We are ready to bring in that light of Shabbat as a united community. Let's bring it in once for ourselves, once for all of our loved ones, and then we bring in that light for everyone in this world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat
Cantor,
Shalom.
You remind me, what are the three? Because in our house, we do a different three. What are your three?
I do once for ourselves, once for our friends and our family, and then I do once for everyone in the world.
We bring in the light of Shabbat, we bring in the warmth of Shabbat, and we bring in the love of Shabbat.
Oh, I like that one too.
So anyway, in the chat, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, if you do this ritual on Friday nights where you bring in the light of Shabbat 3 times, do you associate those 3 with anything? What are those 3 things? And if you don't, if you could imagine what those 3 symbols would be, what would those 3 symbols be? Be curious to hear what people have to say.
That's a good question. I like that. So as you guys are typing, we're going to move on in our blessings, and we're going to bring to our virtual bima one of our Wilshire Boulevard Temple students, a graduate of Browerman East and part of our religious school and teen program. She's a member of our youth choir, Miss Emily Levin, who's going to lead us in our Shabbat Kiddush and our Motzi. And there she is. Shabbat Shalom, Emily.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's so nice to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in so long. I've seen videos of you for all of our youth choir videos, but I haven't actually seen you in the flesh in a very long time.
It's good. It's good to be here.
Good. So you're going to go ahead and lead us in the Kiddush blessing, and we will all follow along from home.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinilanu zikaron lema'aseh b'reishit ki hu yom tehillah lemikra kodesh zechel etziat Mitzrayim kivanu ata ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai lekadesh hashabbat
beautiful. And now
Amen.
you'll lead us in our motzi over our beautiful challah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
B'tei
Amen.
avon, everyone. Emily, thank you for blessing us this evening with your beautiful voice. Rabbi Joel and I were joking around that we could just like go home at this point. Like all of you
Well, we are
teens and pre-teens. That's true. We are home. We should just go to sleep.
Sign
I don't know.
off. We
Go
could
sign
sign off.
off. We can sign off because the job will be done for us. But thank you so much for blessing us with your beautiful voice. Please say hello to your parents who I know who are somewhere in the background. Thank you for
Yeah, and
doing
Emily,
this.
what are you going to celebrate this month? Since this is Celebration Shabbat, what do you look forward to? Or if you were going to celebrate the month of March, how are you going to celebrate?
I think I would just celebrate my health and my family's health and our ability to be together no matter what's going on outside. So I think that's probably what I am thankful for and what I would celebrate this month.
Amen.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily. We're going to continue to welcome in Shabbat by calling in the Shabbat angels. Our rabbis tell us that on Shabbat, our homes are visited by 2 angels, and those angels peer inside of our windows, and if they see us with our family and our loved ones, accounting for all of the amazing blessings that we all have in our life, despite everything that's going on in the world, that the rabbis look at our families and they say, may every Shabbat be as beautiful as this one. We join together in the words of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Lachado D. And this week for Lachado D, I'm thinking about Charles Barkley. And you may be thinking, why is he thinking about Charles Barkley, the NBA basketball Hall of Famer? Because on Jimmy Kimmel last night, he talked about how this weekend his daughter is getting married to a nice Jewish boy somewhere in Arizona. And he's fearful about the hora because he's fearful about, can they pick him up in the chair? He's 6'5", 6'6", big dude. Can he be picked up in the chair for the hora during the wedding celebration? And I just found that so hilarious. And at the same time, so perfect for when we think about Lachado D, right? Lachado D, we are supposed to imagine a bride walking down the aisle. It's as if Shabbat and Israel are coming together, unifying as one during the Shabbat. And of course, at a wedding, we lift ourselves up. We get lifted in the chair. I remember even at my wedding, I was concerned if they were going to be able to lift me up. They did. And I'm thinking about all the things that are going on right now. And Cantor, Lisa, and I were just talking before the service about just how it felt like a heavy week, a long week. And sometimes we feel like being lifted in the spiritual chair for Shabbat just seems like it's not going to happen. Too much going on. Friday night, you don't want to do anything. You just want to plop down. The idea of elevating yourself at this time after a long week, forget it. But what I love about L'Chadodi and what I love about Friday night is that we're supposed to push through that. We are supposed to imagine that no matter what is weighing us down, no matter how heavy we feel, we are supposed to be lifted up in that chair and supposed to enter into a Shabbat mentality. So I really want you right now to just let go of the week, whether you just need to take a deep breath and let it all go, whether you just need to clear your mind, whatever you need to do to start to allow yourself to feel a little lighter so that you can imagine yourself being lifted up in a chair as if you are at a simcha and entering into Shabbat, feeling elevated and lifted. So with that, we continue with L'Chadodi.
L'Chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabelai L'Chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabelai Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad Yishmiyanu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shemu tiferet v'li tehila L'Chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabelai L'Chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabelai Likrat Shabbat lechu benechad Ki hi mekor haberacha Berosh mikedem besucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila L'Chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabelai L'Chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabelai. We rise if we're able to be lifted by that Shabbat ride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam besimcha u'betzahola Toch emunei am segula Boi chala L'Chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabelai L'Chadodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabelai.
So hopefully you're a little less weighted down. And with that, it should make it easier for us as Baruch Hu, as we rise for Baruch Hu, to move deeper into the Shabbat mentality as we continue with Baruch Hu.
Lai, 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 that we've all come together, we're lifted in the spirit of Shabbat. We're letting go of the hectic week that was. It was busy for so many of us. We have a moment to come together as one, even though we're all in our homes, distant from each other. When we recite the words of the Shema, we are united as one, as if we were standing arm to arm together in our sanctuary. So I invite you to close your eyes, take a deep, nourishing breath in, still your body, perhaps so quiet that you're listening to all the sounds around you and you get so quiet that you can even hear that thumping of your heart. We're going to take a deep breath in as we recite the watchword of our people, the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And you know what? I went right into robotic mode and I completely forgot about the incredible guests that we have joining us to lead us even in a better way than I did the Shema. But we are so excited to welcome Malin and Brendan Scott to our virtual service. Who, now that we've taken that deep breath, that was just a warm up. We were getting our voices warmed up for you. But Malin, you are going to lead us in the words of the Shema. And I asked you this earlier, but I'm hoping you can share with everyone. Malin, what is something that you think about when you say the words of the Shema?
I think about my great-grandpa who has passed away, and it makes me sad that he's passed away, but I know his spirit is in my heart with me, and I know he's always with me on Shabbat.
Beautiful. And what about you, Brendan? What do you think about when you say the words of the Shema?
Well, I think about my Mimi and Nana because they got my Nana is fully vaccinated and my Mimi has her first dose, so I'm really excited about that and I hope I can see them soon.
Amazing. You're all going to be united so soon. Okay, you guys ready to lead us?
Yeah.
You're going to lead us all as one. We're all going to cover our eyes at home as we all recite the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Mahutov Leolam Vaed.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for joining our virtual services. Brendan and Malin are students in our Browerman East School, and we're so proud of them and everything that they've accomplished this year. And we're just so grateful that you could join us on this celebration Shabbat. Bye, guys. Thank you so
Shabbat
much.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.
You're not doing Ve'ahavta, Cantor, Lisa.
I know. I remembered that.
Okay.
We're going to welcome to our virtual Bima another one of our students to lead us in the words of the Ve'ahavta, Miss Jasmine Sorkin.
Hello.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hello. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. How are you? What are you celebrating this Shabbat?
Just being home with my family and that I got into at least one of the schools that I applied to.
That's amazing. Okay, you ready to lead us in the Ve'ahavta words of love? Because on this celebration Shabbat, we have nothing but love in our hearts.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושינתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Beautiful. That was gorgeous. Thank you so much, Jasmine, and congratulations on all of the amazing schools that you got into this week. We're so proud of you.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thanks for joining us.
Shabbat Shalom. So there was a big dramatic decision that took place in the High Court of Justice in Israel, in the Supreme Court of Israel this week. And they made a decision 8-1 to allow conservative and reform conversions to be accepted as people who now can be eligible for the law of return. So this is a huge shift in the state of Israel. Rabbi Eshel had a conversation earlier this week with Rabbi Don Gore, who used to be the senior rabbi here in Los Angeles at Temple Judea and made Aliyah with his partner, Cantor Evan Kent, 7 or 8 years ago. And Rabbi Gore is very involved in the reform movement there in Israel, and talked about how this is such a significant step for those who are not Orthodox Jews to start to have a place and a voice in our homeland. It's a very complicated issue. We don't have time to really go into it all right now. And I do recommend you go and check out on our Facebook page or YouTube the conversation that occurred earlier this week. But this idea of religious freedom in our homeland for Jews is really important, right? To imagine that when we crossed the sea thousands of years ago, as we're thinking about getting ready for Passover, there was no barrier to say, well, if you believe this or you practice Judaism in this way, then you can cross the sea. If not, no, you're stuck here, right? There was no barrier like that. All Jews were able to cross over the sea to the other side and try and reach our homeland. So tonight, when I'm praying Mi Chamocha, what I'm going to be thinking about is, can we continue to move forward to lower those barriers so that Jews of all backgrounds, Jews of Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox belief systems and practices can all have a voice, can have a say, can have their identity applauded in the land of Israel. So with that, we continue with Mi Chamocha.
Amen. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים, שיבחה אספת הים, יחד כולם הודו וימליכו וימליכו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. יאי לי 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 לי, יא לי 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 לי, יא לי 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 לי, יא לי 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 יא לי 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 לי. Our next prayer is the evening prayer of the Hashkivenu. And in the Hashkivenu, we ask God to spread a Sukkat Shalom, a sukkah of peace. So I want to ask all of you out there, what are the things that make you feel that sukkah of peace? I can't help but think that every night when I'm putting my son to sleep, I always sing, "You are my sunshine and then I sing the Hashkivenu. And he holds on to me as if I am his comforter, his shelter. And I just wonder, what are the things in your life that make you feel that sheltering presence? And to lead us in the Hashkivenu, we have another one of our students. I just want to recognize her. It's by video, but Sadie learned how to play the guitar during the pandemic. So we are very blessed to have the voice of Sadie Bernstein lead us in our prayer of peace and our prayer of protection, the Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom leHamidenu Malkei uLechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom leHamidenu Malkei uLechaim. Ushmor tzeitzenu uvoenu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom leHamidenu Malkei u'lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom leHamidenu Malkei u'lechaim.
Just as we imagine with Hashkivenu a sukkot shalom, a shelter of peace, there's another word that we use on Friday night that is supposed to also be this idea of protection, right? And the word is shomer, which means to guard. And so this next prayer of Vashamru talks about guarding Shabbat, the importance of guarding Shabbat. What does that mean? It means, how can we make sure, with all the distractions, all the excuses that we can find to not celebrate Shabbat? You know, those who are tuning in, obviously you are celebrating Shabbat, but think about all of those who are not, that we have a responsibility as Jews to guard the essence of Shabbat, to live it out, to find a way for us, no matter how simple it may be, whether it's just lighting the candles, whether it's maybe it's as simple as even saying Shabbat Shalom and recognizing the fact that Shabbat exists. But we have this responsibility of guarding Shabbat. And Vashamru is a reminder every single week that this is one of the most important, if not the most important commandment in our tradition. We talk about it this week. We've talked about it in previous weeks with the 10 Commandments. One of the most incredible innovations in the world was the fact that the Jews came up with this idea of one day out of 7, you take a break. So with that, let's be reminded with Vashamru.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat ledorot haberit olam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat ledorot haberit olam. Israel, oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Israel et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat ledorot haberit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et haShamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat ledorot haberit olam. U'bayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat
Brendan and Malin both mentioned when they were introducing Shema, what they think about with Shema is their ancestors, some who are no longer with us and those who are still alive, but not necessarily physically with us. The Amidah begins with the Avot V'Imahot, a reminder that we are part of a long chain, a long line of people that make up who we are. That if we are going to stand up, since the Amidah is a standing prayer, if we're going to stand up and truly be ourselves, which I think the Amidah at the core is about, how do you enter a space where you can be secure and comfortable with who you are, not just physically by standing up, but how can you spiritually and emotionally also center yourself? We can't do that if we don't recognize the people who came before us, those who help us make us who we are. I had a conversation this week with some Browerman students, and we were talking about the difference between memory and history. I asked them to talk about their first memory, and then I asked them to talk about the beginning of their history of their own life, right? And their memories usually tended to be things from preschool, some very silly stories, some traumatic experiences, and some very silly ones. But when it came to their history, some of them said, well, my history began the day I was born. Some said, well, my history began when my mommy became pregnant with me. And some said my history began when my parents met, right? That our history, who we are, what makes us who we are today, really starts before we're even born. And the Amidah elevates that, begins the Amidah. It doesn't end the Amidah with remembering our ancestors. It starts off with that, to remind us that if we really want to stand up, let's remember from where we came. So we continue now with the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chazdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Gehula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah, Rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayim emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidom elach, Melech memit umechayei, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol.
We always take a moment for silent reflection. So either close your eyes and just listen to this silent reflection, or keep your eyes open and just be moved by the natural landscape. But regardless, the next 30 seconds or so are for us to take some deep breaths and relax.
ask that the meditations that we just offered, that they be heard, not just by God, however you imagine God's presence to be, but that they be heard deep within ourselves. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי.
This is the point in the service where we're going to offer the Misha Berach prayer. And just in this, literally just today, there was so much that Julie and I were kind of inundated with. First, I did a funeral, which, you know, I think about that family and the extended family. But then we learned about a couple we know with children who are getting divorced. We heard about a friend of ours whose child was just diagnosed with diabetes, and all the things that they now have to deal with their lives being transformed overnight. About a pregnancy that had some complications that led to the loss of the baby. There's a lot out there. We take it beyond COVID, and we just think about our daily lives and how things can change in a minute, and we can have a wonderful day today and things can change tomorrow, and that can be scary. Gives us a sense of gratitude for holding on to today and what we do have. But Misha Berach is really an opportunity for us to think about those people out there who are struggling, many of them silently. Some of this news that we learned today was not things that people are publicly putting on Facebook, as they shouldn't, are not necessarily things that are going to be spread far and wide. There is so much that we are all holding in inside of us, such pain, such sorrow and anxiety. And of course, it's even complicated even more through this pandemic. So Misha Berach tonight, in the midst of our celebration Shabbat, there is much to celebrate, but there's also much holding that we must do for other people. And while we can't do that physically, since we're not able to hug, I mean, being at that funeral today and not being able to hug the family members is so difficult. So thinking about all those people in our lives, and maybe the people we don't even know who need our prayers, who need our support, we're thinking, and please feel free to share some names in our chat if you're thinking of people in particular who need some support, who need our prayers, who need our love. We're thinking of Rachmiel Chono Ben Dorit. We're thinking of Galia Bat Bali. We're thinking of Steve Tolkien. I'm thinking about those families who I referred to earlier. Anyone else that you're thinking of, let's hold them in our prayers tonight and send them our strength and our love as we continue with Misha Berach.
Before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bisheberach imotenu mekol habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
It's a pretty famous Torah portion this week. Ki tisa, the golden calf. Right? We all have various images in our mind of what that must have looked like. This is just one of many, of course. This idea that while Moses was up on the mountaintop for 40 days, the Israelites weren't sure if he was going to come back. They didn't know what was going on, so they turned to Aaron, Moses' brother, and he basically helps facilitate them creating this golden calf. And when Moses comes down from the mountain, he smashes that golden calf. He destroys it with such anger, understandably so. And what we don't usually talk about is what happens right after he smashes that idol. First of all, he takes the gold of that calf and he grinds it up and he puts it in water and he feeds it to all the Israelite people. Then he goes even further. Then he says, anyone who is with me and with God, come be with me. And I want you to take a sword on your thigh, and I want you to go out, and I want you to get rid of anyone who may have worshipped that calf. And so that day, 3,000 Israelites are killed by their fellow Levites because they worshiped the calf. We don't usually talk about that part. Then God brings a plague on top of that to really give it a once-over for the Israelites, for them falling into this idea of worshiping a calf. There's this back and forth through much of the Torah portion between Moses and God. You know, once this happens, after God brings this plague, he says to Moses, you know what, I'm out. I'm done with these people. I want nothing to do with them. They're on their own. I'm not going to follow them on their journey. Moses has to plead with God and say, God, please, we need you. And Moses does a pretty good job of convincing God to stick with them. But then Moses says, if you are going to lead us, I really need to see you. I really want to know you. We have a special relationship. Will you let me see you? And of course, God says, no human can see me and actually survive, but I'll let you go hide in the cleft of the rock and I'm going to pass by and you'll be able to see my back. Probably the most anthropomorphic element of God that we have in the Torah. But after that, something interesting happens. Something that we refer to in the high holidays. And in a minute, I'm going to have Cantor Peicott chant this section that we have during the high holidays and some of our festivals. But the way I see this is that what's happening here is Moses, in his anger and his disappointment and his frustration, lashes out at the Israelite people to the point where he is willing to actually have some of them killed because of what they did, right? And then in response to that, God basically does this reflection. It's as if, imagine when you're looking in the mirror, right? Have you ever looked in the mirror and done affirmations to yourself, right? I'm a good person. I can do this. You got this, right? This scene that we then chant at the high holidays and that is repeated at different festivals is God talking about God's self, about God's attributes, right? They're known as the 13 attributes of God. They're found in this week's Torah portion. And it comes on the tail of God revealing God's self to Moses. And then this is what God says. So I'm going to put it up, and Cantor, I would love for you to chant it at this point.
Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed lalafim, Noseh avon v'afesha, V'chata'a v'nakeh.
You'll hear that in 6 months, everyone, at the high holidays. So it starts, I didn't start the Hebrew with the beginning of the line. The beginning of the line of that verse starts, the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, and then what the Cantor chanted, the Lord, or Adonai, Adonai, a God compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the thousandth generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. This is God saying to God's self, basically, these are my attributes. I am going to be compassionate. I'm going to be forgiving. But I actually think this is God speaking to Moses and saying, you know, there are going to be those moments where you are completely frustrated by the people around you. Those people you lead, those people you love, those people you trust, they are going to do things that upset you, that hurt you, intentionally or not. There are two ways you can respond. One is to respond the way Moses actually did. And by the way, Moses does have an anger issue and an anger problem, an anger management issue that comes out a variety of times throughout the story of his journey. And eventually, it's because of his anger that he is excluded from entering the land of Israel. We'll find that out in the book of Numbers. But you can respond that way, right? You can respond the way that some of the families that as I was going through carpool this week at Browerman, responded, right? We don't let people in the car line. No, it's my turn. I'm going to go next, and I'm not letting you in, right? We're starting to come back into the world again. And what we're finding is that there are moments where we are going to be prone to be defensive, to close off, and to be angry or competitive. That's one way we can respond. The other way that God is trying to suggest, right, in the way that we are reminded of at the high holidays, the reason why we repeat these 13 attributes is not just because they are the attributes of God that are supposed to remind us that, phew, okay, we might have done wrong, but God is going to protect us, and God is a good God. And so even if we've done some wrong, God's going to get our back. No, it really is imagining that we are looking in a mirror, just as we could imagine God is looking in the mirror and saying, this is who I want to be. These 13 attributes are a reminder of the way in which we are supposed to be: gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the thousandth generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. We have to remind ourselves of those things, right? As we heard, some people are already getting vaccinated. Some people already have their second dose. We're going to start coming out even more into the world. How are we going to act? Are we going to allow all the pent-up anxiety and frustration that's been building up in our homes over this last year to manifest itself with negativity and destruction and pain? Or are we going to look in the mirror and remind ourselves to be forgiving, to be compassionate, to be loving? Can we change the way we act towards one another? Can we not go back necessarily to just the way things were before the pandemic? Can we make things a little better than what they were before? And we need to remind ourselves of that. We're 6 months out from the high holidays. For you, that's like a lifetime. For me and Cantor Lisa, literally last week, we already started planning high holidays. Okay, but we're 6 months away. Purim is 6 months away from Yom Kippur, right? Because Purim and Yom Kippur are linked. The words are related. right? Purim, this idea of lottery, two different ways of which we can understand our place in the world. With 6 months to go before the high holidays, can you look in the mirror, and as you start to go out into the world even more, can you remember those attributes of God, and can you make them your attributes? Shabbat Shalom.
Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed lalafim, Nosei avon v'afesha v'chata v'nakeh. Oh, I needed that. That was really good. Thank you, Rabbi Joel. That was a beautiful drash.
Thanks.
So as we mentioned, it is Celebration Shabbat, and there is still a lot to celebrate. We were overwhelmed by the number of submissions, but I just want to mention one, which is really incredible. It is Betty Cohen's 100th birthday. 100th birthday. So for those of you in our virtual world, please wish Betty a happy birthday. And with that, we're going to see the slideshow of all of the birthdays and anniversaries of our students and our congregants.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Mazel tov to all those people. At this point, before we conclude our service with Mourner's Kaddish, just a few announcements. First, you can follow us on social media. You're already probably watching us either on our website, on YouTube, or on Facebook. So feel free to follow us on any one of these. You can find them here. We have a variety of programs, as you know, happening all the time. We have Wilshire Fitness, which is happening a couple days a week, so you can tune into that. We have a great series that Rabbi Nanis is teaching right now about Jewish women in throughout history. 10 amazing women in Jewish history you never heard of with Rabbi Nanis. This is Women's History Month, so feel free to tune into that on Tuesdays at noon. And by the way, any of these programs, if you can't tune in at that particular time, everything is stored on our YouTube page and on Facebook. We have a series, Understanding the Holocaust, so you can join us for that Thursdays at noon for another couple of weeks. We have Torah study every Friday at 12 p.m. A variety of clergy members, we rotate through to teach about what's happening in this week's Torah portion. So you get a taste of that on Friday night and Saturday morning. But if you want a more in-depth conversation for about an hour or so, feel free to join us for that as well. There are many other things. Go onto our website. Find them all there. If of course, we have the daily emails as well. You can find them at our socials. If you're not getting our daily emails and you'd like to get them, please reach out to us so we can make sure that you know about all the things that are happening. Passover is coming up, as we discussed. We're going to have a variety of opportunities for you. Some that you are just pre-recorded that you can tune put on by yourself on the first night or anytime you want to kind of help you lead a Seder or walk through a Seder as you're doing it from your own home. The second night Seder is going to be a family experience. We're partnering with an incredible organization called Tribal, which is going to help facilitate a phenomenal experience. They've been doing things for Fortune 500 companies and Jewish organizations. They are the top leaders in taking a Zoom experience and actually making it enjoyable, interactive, and worth your while. So that stay tuned for more information about that, but that will be our second night Seder, and many more things, I'm sure, that I'm forgetting. But with that, we're going to now move to the conclusion of our service, the Mourner's Kaddish, as I mentioned before, with the Amidah. You can't have a service. We always end our service with a reminder of those who came before us, to imagine we start Shabbat services with the light of those candles, and we end Shabbat services with the imagining the light, the illumination of the lives and the memories that we have of those who are no longer with us. So we continue with Mourner's Kaddish. We begin with Shloshim, those who have passed away during the past month. David Saul ben Saul, Horatio Applebaum, Hugh Fate, Doris Fink, Sarah Lee Goldman Rudnick, Julie Gordon, Alan Hervey, Arnold Holstein, Judy Carmon, Lonnie Marston, Dixie McKee, Tia Persoff. We commemorate the following yahrzeits: Alfred Adler, Dorothy Adlin, Mordo Ben Altabet, Jack Armel, Sidney Beckerman, Alfred Burke, Leonard Berman, Karen Boehm, Paul Borden, Carol Ann Brand, Ruth Bronte, Helen Brownlee, Irving Birkin, Norma Kadib, Jack Chinsky, Sylvia Chiswick, Morris Clayman, Stella Codd, Rose Cohn, Otto David, Betty Davids, Herbert Urich, Inez Eskowitz, Helen Felsenthal, Max Fisher, Harry Fleischman, Monty Friedman, Maurice Gersh, Hera Gilfenbane, Marlene Goldblum, Marley Goldbacher, Shirley Goldinger, Stanley Grinstein, Harry Harris, Jack Hertz, Evelyn Honoroff, Louis Jacobs, Jean Campbell-Jones, Arthur Josephs, Iran Carmen, Ibrahim Kashani, Harry Kirchheimer, Leon Klappholtz, Elizabeth Klein, Gordon Kopold, Daniel Krasnow, Elizabeth Kurznia, Marcus Labe, Jay Lentz, Oscar Lerman, Lois Jean Levy, Jean Lieber, Olive Lipkin, Sidney Loeb, Yigal Makeover, Lillian Mark, Jerry Mayerson, Naima Naim, Shirley Oakham, Rhoda Ordover, Michael Polivoy, Arlene Price Sklarski, Marshall Rissman, Ann Bessie Rosen, Aaron Roth, Milton Rowan, John Rubin, Rhoda Samuel, Ruth Savin, Jacqueline Rose Schiff, Lillian Schmidt, Albert Serlin, Leo Sirota, Nathan Spielberg, Sam Steinberg, Janet Tenser, Linda Tepper, Robert Villiers, Alexander Wasserman, Shirley Weinstein, Anna Weissman, Milton Weiss, Maurice Wilczek. We continue with Mourner's Kaddish. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrachute ve'amlich malchute, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevrach le'olam ol me'omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chaim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Ose shalom bimromav. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Alleluia. 1, 2, 3, go. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Bimromav. Oh, say shalom. Bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hallelujah. You guys know what to do. 1, 2, 3, go. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Thank you to our special guests, Brendan and Malin Scott, Jasmine Sorgan. In the beginning of the service, we had Emily Levin and a special video from Sadie Bernstein. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom, Rabbi Joel.
Shabbat shalom, Cantor. Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.